I have a question for you. How do you tell if your church is growing? My name is Reverend Dr. Beverly Tillman, and I'm the senior leader of Greater Harvest Church Growth Ministries. I work with senior leaders and their members to help them grow their church. Okay, so let me ask that question again. How can you tell if your church is growing? Well, this is not a trick question. You count them. You count people. Okay, so let's take a little deeper look at that. You can use a clicker. You can count people as they come in. Also, there's other ways, but let's talk about the count method because it's quite easy to do that if you have 100 or fewer members. So let's look at the clicker count method. You want to have a cutoff for when you stop counting. Let's say your service starts at 9 o'clock. You want to cut off at 9:15 or 9:30. 9:30 is getting sort of late, but 9:15 is a good time to cut off. Why? Because it's going to standardize when you start graphing. It will show you whether your service is really going up, really going down, and there'll be no stragglers included in that. Stragglers don't show you how much the church is growing because a straggler will just come in at any time. If your service starts at 9, probably 80%, probably if it starts at 9, by 9:15, you probably have 90 to 95% of the people in attendance. So you want to have a cutoff point for counting. Okay, next of all, you want to set up graphs, a weekly graph, a monthly graph, and a quarterly graph. When you look at this, you'll be able to really tell, and with the monthly graphs, you'll be able to tell very quickly, as a matter of fact, whether your number is going up or down. Now, you are going to have actual numbers, but when you look at a graph, you'll be able to see more. You'll see relationships. Okay, the next thing is you want to look at the peaks and valleys. When do you have a lot of people at service? When do you have less people at service? And then you want to zero in on what happened that week, what was going on that month. If you have a high attendance, is it because you had Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Christmas? Was there a special reason for why the number was high? Then when you look at lower numbers, you want to know, why did we have lower numbers? Was it the weather? Was it too hot or was it too cold? You want to figure out why. You want to look at why it's high or why it's low. Okay, when you put all of these numbers together, you look at the graph and you start making assessment as to why you have a lot of people and why you have less people. Then you can begin to put all of this information together, and it will tell you whether your church is growing or not growing, or whether it's going up in numbers or whether it's going down in numbers. And this is why I say establish a cutoff for counting. You don't need to count stragglers because stragglers can end up messing up your count. Because suppose 1 week you have a bunch of stragglers, okay? So you add all those stragglers in who weren't really a steady part of your church growth number. So I'm going to strongly advise that when you count, you cut off at a certain point. Now, if your church has 50 or fewer people, you might want to go ahead and just count everybody that comes through the door. But once you get to 100 for sure, you want to have a cutoff point to do that. Okay, so let me go over this again. How do you know if your church is growing? Okay, you count the numbers. And I suggest you have a cutoff for numbers that you're counting. You graph all of these numbers. You look at the peaks and valleys, and you look to see if your church is actually growing. That's that. It's a very easy process. Okay, I hope you learned something, and I look forward to being with you again on my broadcast. You can reach us at greaterharvestministries.com, or you can text 708-491-8471. Okay, God bless you, and I look forward to speaking